배나 녀몽보다 맞춰게 맞춰 전에 진지 견지 주나 니가 안 돼봤겠어 야라데 커지대 전에 두고 와 내 말에 소소하다 오늘 말아서 즉 낭sem기둥을 지난다 시에네 배라 자파 총군 되니 간데지로 중사대 단지 말이 월 때는 쪽에 견데 좀 봐 연구하러 마다 용사대 단지 말이 봐 오늘 두사대 때 두고 와라이스 레렌 카데지 즉 눈을 간데지 주나 내가 간데지 주나 투사대 단지 말이 봐 때 두고 와라이스 오늘에 배는 미지가 가서 내게이나 라면은 내게 세며 제가 들한 거 제로 와 거기 너베게 이사대지 랑게 제로 율디 라면은 내게서 개 거라며 같으니 그걸 이 전주구 밖에 유튜브부터 솔로하다 되나라 세부통구도 와 보다 되게 문이 삼다나 오시 삼다 요즘뭐 삼다나 세는 뱅기도 와 간지 심 기루아 당해대 뭐마대 로종시대 나랑 저지 미즈버시키디 갈라 이 셈들은 기루아 간디지 미즈버데 까고고도 기루아 당고도 삼내 돈이 까투기나 때 랍체여래 보다 티순거래 레렌 담제 머리벌 투그리 세순거래 레렌 담제 찔란다 제순데 라자 심전남 둥얼 민드바 토두 바바타 더바 마두바 탐제기 자와니 레렌 다사 7월 젠도 살와티스 레렌 사사 충바인데 데르 나르메니 시제프라 로아리 감 투투 케네 둥알 윤링라 tar trapa gon 손에 용어 탐지 유메당 다 유메발에 기고 말에 미듬비겔에 기고 말에 따비길에 기고 말에 어떻게 쓰는 거래 미듬비길에 좋아 마인신 레당 뉴모 군중한테니 게라스 아니 레경 뉴모 소비 뉴모 제라 뉴모장 네니 다든 짐베 머리반디 둥알 탐지 기베 자와인데 때문에 그래도 자와인데 전주래 지센 따나 세와 강요당 지다 둥알 징이 여기로 봐 대근 다든 짐바 레주나 레첸 대고달에 지시자 제당 제영 단징기 또 집이 뉴모남 랑라 너빠니 너베 ngo체디 뒤윤진 코나탄 tumba 두두 메라 양땡일레 델타르 윤린 균차 라기르바 너베 세라필베 유지부 자기 닝라 네베 자기 닝라 네버 나차나 크로완 지메 가버 갈랑규르 오다 즉 오네 니니 숭숭레 뉴몽 세야데 단지 머리 빈디부 뉴몽 세데 오네 가보도와 오네 삼다이나 지 타나 콘드지게 바이나 게마타도 sem기지데 라게도와 이 코르드 영인 강가 직 마데스 샤도와 띵어서 삼로 마다마 삼로타나 가보도와 삼로타나 코레아지도와 와다 대가나신도 샤레 대가나신 게 네베 지가서 나잘 텔레장 문이 견지래 소소 지 이젠지가는 연된라야 나잘 첨버지나 이제 얼른 누르고 말해 같이 지금 말해 어떻게 가보시고요 연된 차 연된 미끼 게 챙찍 나잘 지금 이 나잘게 셈라 쉬우지 니트기도 와 수브라 제용도 와 다들 또 다들 그때기 공도 주주래 윤진 시절 등에 대해서 제다 아니 즉 미남대서 상로지다 심중 소속의 미남도도 많아 다들 쉬우지 야부도 와 대체 상무다고 신의 상무단에 니집에는 생은 팽이도 와 오늘 가서 중뒤 즉 수수 녀모란 돈은 제마타긴 단다 간잠지 때때리세 삼삼지 제네 셈라 즉 녀몽 또서 개체가 맞다 제트고야 말다 간잠지 nga마다 만다지 돈은 제트고도 와 두비야데 갈체 말이 배제 전리지 소수표기 가서 툭툭지 개체가 막 가버려 가서 가서 내 당보와 녀몽로 공부슈 충분히 아니 단답에 파기 개회 초라 슈부지 가장 것도 근치 차대요. 즉 말하면서 sem중 개회 초기 sem중들라 가장야 가버 공부윤유 인자 미개회 sem중돼서 빨리라고도 님도 공부슈 충분히 거다 독스래. 뒤니까 녀몽 회사에 단지 말이빠들라 즉 파게 다든지 메단진다 아니 랑 제번지 진진 땡이라 아니 빼 맞은 돈인 제과에 얼마나 땡이래 디 왕기 딘 짐바땡이 슈 춤보여 인사 다든지 메단진이 님볼라 본이도 베타와 랑 제번지 진진이 님볼라 아니 자주기 셈 와다 디차디오 제자 디 니가지 둘 마투이나 디 니기 가르쳐라다 즉 님부 마템바 땡이라 즉 카데 진짜 마툼나 나도 녀몽생인데 마마 슈슈키키야래 마마 슈슈키 텔레규 배 베스체와 말이 텔라이네 배즉 가르쳐라다 준비 랍진 제와 땡 써와이니요 말이 걘 캐바다 끼쳐져진 데디요래 배 페트롤 매파르다 찌바 직장 차리요. 말한주 즉 어디 뒤인디가라 다 기술 삼로 양네 양도 땅과 배 미시버게 침버리 권 교를 시전줄래 제양 아랑 진진 있는 바 투말라 자르징 다 풀 자르네 한 진진이 세송 펜바 tumbo 고카페 삼베 고니 코나 뎀버체디 시티모네 뎀바레 란친디 아 신짐바데 슈 춤보지야나 디긴니바 투마타이 고라 소토메 캐리창 베 장전타 불에 자샤고와 삼야보 있다이나 란친진 카제 지 투르야 당가란즈 삼마다나 하고다 삼마마다나 시비시비디 하고미다데 삼르지다 도시네 아니 펜바줍지 다보니 좋아 수수시바 니가 생인데 망보지 디가라 이기 왕게 설날에 인구도 벤저존이지나 설나티 왕기 아니티 숨마도 베 벤저도 숨마도 갈래도 디리가라 여름 숨도 여름 무슨 뭐시바 빌리언 망보 벤저부터는 튕행게 전에 푸드 중하래 잠불이네 다 세미나네 란진다 디기til라 뇽 카드 자사제 마시 디기티 님이지 마통 디기는 님이 통역을 다 마툭디가라 다 셈마기 버치니 용도도 세송도 때때 뭐 얘네 소리 와다 디기디 소소티 강알데 군드기 메나 와다 디기디 로 양내양도 삼다 양로 양 삼다 루시나 애니페 칼레 셈는 기와 땡땡 테기리 진랩 생활마다 셈는 기와지다 셈기디키 좀 진랩 의마레 진랍스데 진즈 제진식도와 제 시리가라 인지미지 7월 뭐 보고 해요 말에 삼로다 디 토니 애니페 셈라 때기 디키 미용 켄지 삼무타웨 툴레 양겨 때 마라지 셈라 직 셈쿠야마다 셈에네베 디키 쳐진롤 티친레베 진체와 제진 랍치와 규르던 레스 쉬 발랍테 콘데야요 말와 규와지 규완로로 데겨와 오다 테노즈네 셈라 랑게 셈라 랑 진진데 만남 진진지야 자든 짐발 자 메베 타와 자 메발 에니페 직 하고나 자 메세다 자테 풍불로 왕규와도 풍부바에 풍불로 왕규와보 디 네풍보세 풍보로 딘디 짐바 반진지 딘 된다와데 메나 엔 라메파 다 오네 풍보신데 라신데 따보 삼로지 당고다 라당가다 간사숨 던지치베 라테당 아니 나랑 라딘 짐베 반진시야데 라시나 티는다레 꽉하가레 리디오와 라당 나당 간사시야데 코로와포 에니 상게파포 아 딘지 여러와 데디 가바자고레 시비 균질을 따베 다지자고 시비 균질 따고도 와 단다데 왕 규로와포 타부 풍폴라 가르소다 라파존디지나 참메 비치부 미지비 따바 제기 르부제데 기지 숨댕기다 라파데 제라마 인지기다 된다고 다데요 말에 이제 숨고가로 다 너네 밖에 텔레 타르치네 다 메서 왕 규로와포 타부 초도 봐 그냥 봐 풍볼라 마테비 풍볼로 왕 규로와포 타부 제번 타부 아니 딘지 진주지 노아 어디 딘도가 요 말에 세스라 된다고 자꾸 딘도 요 말이라 이거 같이 뭐니 반진다 딘도가데 진줄데라 삼노잖아 갈래 고기가마다 삼노 딜마다 렘상 거야 가버려 어디 디 짐바데 시와이나 딘이 뭐니 제 아까서 다 내봐라 진이 가져가는 거지 어디도 쉬운 거래 있을 수가 뒤로왔다 템버트도 못 가대 삼 란진들이 이제는 템버트 비하게 뭐 가그리 세세 때문에 삼단 다다 고투야 되지 코네 담버지 디티무 머리 베트란데 란체 프랑진지 제니 야르와토 디 로퍼타위 sun nombuji chobe 리디 케투 세니 모두 넬레기 소사체비 리첸 셴바칸데 양 디르디 란친진 디 투순기 야와 토니 레벨로도 좀르체베 충분야 디르디 닝기 푸두 소남 마임베 쟁은 투마사니 미다 미마임베 네체 탐제 젠 라버지베 풍제 우pen 거친야 디르디 레기진라 남식이 사번데베 셀링기 추양 야시티 추테 로와 남 투두 둥아지 용와 마투바 요케 템포야 디르디 문지 짐베 사이기 점된데 난다 라레라야 시베 딜 나치 메피 누리 송와라 따투야 지텐다 지텐렌데베 연된 탕한테 영양 자르메 러메 라버통와 뇽레 레로친 제겐양 디르디 실제는 남메기 버도 강도기 왔던데 동아이기 내당 수단로게 동아이기 쪽 지라치게 롱체게 동아이기 롱체레 만데바 점den기 손랍다 원데 템포다다리 융루 라마탐베 굴기 뿜발레 퇴신 니게 기zen zena du batar kruye dunga relamine simchen dite nesem kembote dirdi pemba miungwe chamepe ne yulmo dobe sempatio tu rene korgo mantoche neki demi de chamepe senen dir pumbe ne batam chembochi jungi tone 시암 주에 저런 패드ペレト 케냐 딜디 티칸 다칸 둥카치페 체투양 택지도 레네 즈브라 제 게지 켈와 주나 템보탄 로벤 프로닝 렘바 파마 니드나라 게월 제베 중 님부 양 딜디 양게 게베 신인 민고 소신게 par 탐젤라 톨라 하도 멜란덴셈 멤발랑 나겔 뜨난 제 민인 추즈 콩루키비 가인 나초다 따인 신메 따 유문 탐지 님이 가인 반 디른지
So we will read a little bit and then we'll stop here. So if you have a book, we will read from page 47. By the way, this is a free, a copy. If you happen to visit down in Bloomington, I think they have some extra copies of this. Page 47. We will read, the what is to be given up by contemplating the disadvantages of selfishness. And here there is a quotation from 7-point mind training. Banish the one to blame for everything. So basically it says that, blame everything to one thing. That is, self-grasping thought. For ordinary people like us, we are so used to kind of blaming to others. When something bad happens to us, we always, the first thing we do is point fingers to somebody else, some other factors or conditions. Somebody did that, therefore I'm suffering, so it's not my fault. We came up immediately with this thought of kind of, blaming on others. And more detail about understanding, how we get sort of hurt by others and who is actually harming you or hurting you. You can look more details in Shantideva's text, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, chapter 6. And Shantideva came up with such kind of argument that because of your presence, first of all, your presence, you get inflicted. If there is no you with whoever is harming you, there is no point of harming you or hurting you. So, your presence is sort of maybe half responsible for being yourself being hurt, because of your presence. So he comes up with many different arguments how, you should be kind of understanding more about your own, responsibilities in harming yourself. To continue from this, we sentient beings run after misery that we do not desire and never achieve what we wish. At the root of it, all we seek to lay the blame elsewhere, which is a mistake. This is because all the various lengthy and violent sufferings that come from being born among the 5 or 6 kinds of existence, from the hell without respite to the peak of existence, are not without causes, nor do they arise from unrelated causes. So here comes the Buddhist understanding of cause and effect. When we look at whatever thing exists, it must have a cause, for its very existence. And the cause must be something that's sort of concomitant, something that's suitable to the result, not totally different, unrelated cause. And we need to think kind of way back, how the cause and the came into existence, and therefore it giving a result. These come about in dependence upon the actions and disturbing emotions that give rise to everything. Since actions are caused by disturbing emotions are the primary factor. Moreover, amongst the disturbing emotions, it is the ignorance that clutches into misconception of self. That is the principal source of all misery. So here, one is the misconception of self. We call it self-grasping. The reason why we try to understand, how we get harmed and who is harming us and who is responsible for kind of your own suffering, if you understand it, not everything, but for us being a beginner, it's hard to understand. But if you understand a little bit, you can easily tolerate a suffering problem. There won't be so kind of so much trouble in kind of receiving or dealing with your own problem. And as we talked many times before, afflictions or defilements or negative disturbing emotions. If you look at those disturbing emotions, you know how powerful they are. We use many times the example of simply kind of hatred. If you generate short amount of kind of hatred within yourself, first of all, it takes away your own peace of mind, and then it kind of there's a negative kind of sort of energy that makes people around you uncomfortable, uneasy. So we see how small kind of these negative emotions can affect yourself and then others. And of course, this applies equally to all other negative disturbing emotions, such as negative attachment, jealousy, arrogance, pride. The arrogance is one of the main sort of qualifications of arrogance is that it won't let you basically understand and learn. This will make you becomes the chief kind of obstacles in learning and understanding from others, because you always have this feeling of I'm greater, better, superior than others, so why not? Why should I listen to others? This kind of arrogance becomes one of the, and of course it makes your quality of the mind or consciousness much rough, and so here again, kind of going back to the contemplating about and learning and studying about mind and mental factors, how each of these emotions are causing sort of problems that are affecting your way of thinking. And when you have some understanding of mind and mental factors, you look at, for example, one mental factor: what is the object of observation, what is the nature of mind, what is the functions. And when you do that, you really kind of it makes sense in your mind, why it is happening within you and how it is happening. And with that kind of understanding, your approach will be totally different, to your own problem. So as mentioned before, this is not easy for us, for beginners, and because we always talk about how, as a beginner, we are so much or familiar with the negative, thoughts. We are not so much used to kind of the positive thoughts, and not in one lifetime, but many lifetimes before. So therefore, as we mentioned, talked before, doing something negative, coming up with a negative thought is never a problem to us. It's so systematic, well organized, so easy. You don't need effort. You don't need to learn. It comes so easily and automatic, spontaneous. But on the other hand, doing something positive, virtuous, good, we need to do some work. So, and so here basically, coming down to 2 points, self-grasping and self-cherishing thought. These are the two root kind of the causes of all kind of suffering and problems. And the directly antidote to these two, self-grasping, understanding of emptiness, you have heard before, and then self-cherishing thought, the direct opposite is altruistic mind or bodhicitta. And so we'll continue with the reading here. The Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life by Shantideva says, however much torment, fear, and suffering there is in the world, it all arises from the misconception of self. Oh, what trouble this great ghost brings me. Furthermore, since disturbing emotions, chiefly created by seizing onto a misconception of self, bring us harm, they are the actual adversary. We should not maintain relations with this long-term antagonist. The same text says, by Shantideva, thus through long unbroken contact he is our foe, sole cause of an ever-increasing heap of trouble. When we are certain of this in our hearts, how can we be happy and unafraid in cyclic existence? Moreover, we can attribute all this harm to our selfish attitude and thinking of how it slams the door on all benefits and accomplishments. We should be aware of it. So here comes the ego mind, selfishness. How this selfishness, ego mind, actually becomes, shutting down the door for all benefits, for all goodness, and we also say that because of this ego mind selfishness, we create our own good prison. You are in your own prison. And so this kind of ego mind selfishness, the feeling or that I is important. I need this. Not only kind of shutting down the doors of all goodness benefits, but it is also the very kind of the source of all many different suffering and problems of your own self. This strong ego mind. And there were His Holiness sometimes kind of share his a story about his good friends who are wealthy billionaires, but really unhappy, not knowing how to deal with kind of one's own emotion. So the point here is that having a lots of money, wealthy, doesn't necessarily mean that it will bring you or make you a happy person. And we need to know this really basic kind of our own emotions and how to deal with it if one want to be, have a happy life. And so continue with the reading. Likewise, the self-centered attitude is an expression of stupid ignorance, since this lack of consideration for others is like taking hold of the sharp weapon of wrong views and slaughtering any concern for good and bad deeds. So right here within us is an evil butcher who cuts off the source of life, of high status and definite goodness. This selfish thought, holding up the bag of 3 poisons, is the thief within us, who destroys our harvest of virtue. By collecting rotten, worthless things in the cave of our heart, we have here within us an all-headed deceiver who attracts all human and inhuman interferences. In the fields of action are planted the seeds of consciousness, irrigating them over and over again with the waters of desire and craving is the farmer here within us who cultivates the numerous shoots of the 5 or 6 kinds of suffering beings. Even though the previous Buddhas, the transcendent subduers, have spent as long as us in this beginningless world, we have been unable to adhere to any of the excellent qualities of this or the world beyond. So here within us is a naked, empty-handed slob behaving over-indulgently. Whenever we are born from the peak of existence to the hell without respite, we dwell in misery. Whoever we befriend is a friend of suffering. Whatever objects we use are nothing but objects of anguish. These are the words of the Buddha, the transcendent subduer, found in the text of the learned masters who commented on this thought and are to be heard in the songs of realizations of the supreme spiritual masters. Yet, even though this is definitely the case, like an old dog attracted to a scrap of food, the glutton within us is constantly engrossed in the marvels of cyclic existence. When a meditator intervenes to pacify military conflicts, much confusion arises from a fundamental uncertainty over whether benefit will or will not be forthcoming. So it is with us, because of a fundamental uncertainty about whether our own fears will lead to trouble or not, we have within us a coward who can only guess whether the barrier he constructs will suffice to allay his fears that one major hurt will ruin him again. We fight with swords, arrows, and spears in hope of gaining victory and profit. When we lose, we console ourselves by accusing somebody else. We have within us an evil being who shamelessly blames all problems on our learned teachers and abbots and our friends and those dear to us, our parents and relatives. We are jealous of everyone, from the highest spiritual friends to the lowest lows. We are competitive with equals, arrogant towards inferiors, become conceited when praised, and angry when criticized or abused, like the roaming of an unbridled horse of all the disturbing emotions within us. This is the most restless. We should never fool ourselves about the fact that happiness arises from virtue and suffering arises from evil. This is assured, has been stated by the transcendent subduer, is written in text by learned masters, elaborating his thought, and can be heard in the glorious holy masters' songs of spiritual realization. Everyone desires happiness and wishes for not even the slightest misery. Yet when others encourage us in the direction of wholesome conduct, we fail to heed their words. We engage in prescribed and natural misdeeds like water pouring downhill, and act reluctantly to restrain them. Here within us is an evil holder of wrong views. Those promises are completely contradicted by the way we behave. For the beginningless time, we have been circling through cyclic existence because of the 84,000 disturbing emotions. This applies to the numerous troubles and pains we have experienced until today. Yet, despite having closed many doors to the achievement of benefit and pleasure, we still lack the vision to see the slightest defect in any of these. Here within us is a clear image with blind eyes. So, as mentioned before, if you don't want kind of, our own kind of emotional problem, what we need to do is just read text like this, gain more understanding, and then really kind of, change our own way of thinking. And in Tibetan words, as His Holiness says, word blessing, we have two words for that, chinlap. Chinlap, what this means is that in English it is kind of loosely translated as a blessing. Chin basically refers to some kind of substances, things, and lap refers to transformation. So through kind of some entity or things, it should be resulting in some changes, transformation. And here Geshe-la said that if through reading, understanding, contemplating these kind of texts, teachings, and you are gaining some benefit of happiness of mind, your mind becoming more open, more wider, more kind of relaxed happiness, then you are truly blessed by this kind of teaching, and you can get blessing through your own way. So it doesn't necessarily has to be from somebody else, giving you a blessing. You can be blessed. This is truly blessed. Transformation within yourself, even the smallest tiny bits of happiness or peace of the mind or more openness. And this the vocabulary that we use in Buddhist terminology, other cherishing thoughts, cherishing others like your own mother thought, very common expression, and selflessness. And here, of course, selflessness doesn't mean this body or I doesn't exist, but the wrong grasping of self. The wrong grasping is that we always have this innate feeling that, when we say I, me, self, a person, as if this I or self or person is something solid, something independent from this body and mind, which in reality it is not. And there is a I or self or me, which continuously takes rebirth, finally attain enlightenment, but that refers to the continuity or continuum of the consciousness. Again, this the nature of the consciousness or mind, it varies from different school of thoughts. For example, great exposition or particularist, they say that self or person or I, like a non-Buddhist school, self which is independent, single, independent, single, permanent, doesn't exist. There is no self like that, in which there are many non-Buddhist schools who believe in that kind of self or sometimes soul. And then higher school thoughts, they interpret slightly different way. Not only that, but the way we apprehend, the way we have an idea of self being solid, independent, self-sufficient, which is kind of both of this body and mind. There is no that kind of self. It's selflessness. So we need to kind of destroy that kind of wrong grasping we have, apprehension. And Geshe said we will stop here for today, and if you have any questions, you can ask. Any questions? Yeah.
Was it? I guess I'm trying to think of the right way to word this. when we achieve enlightenment, the highest stage of
Mhm.
consciousness, basically our self becomes one with the cosmic consciousness.
Mhm.
Now, the one kind of confusion I've had is I've read some things about yoga and how their belief system talks about how your true self becomes one with the spiritual sky, basically the oneness with the universe. And they also talk about the creation and destruction of the universe. Now, one thing that's been confusing to me is after we've achieved the highest state of liberation, what then becomes of us after the basically the destruction of the whole universe and the recreation? What happens then? Do we basically start the whole process over again? And in a way, then what's the point if it's a continuous cycle?
그런 게 고단 나오래. 다디 나한테도 다다 되긴 그런 거야. 진짜 아주 상기에서서 나한테 쉐바셔라. 다르톤에 에네 칼로래. 다 남지 그런 요가 되네 하고 선사 지금 남지 지용 나오래. 다 지기 자물링 나오래. 지기 다 쉐바셔라. 쉐바디다 직차도 그랬어. 엔다 딘데 도시 인수나 에네 칼로래. 다 제일 자물링 데 메와 차스나 다 개바 직전나 나오래. 동도 나오래. 디급라 에네 당한 저기 쉐바디 거두 그래. 간데 차그래. 야마나 야 칼로래. 심바드 모서는 권에 고조 그래. 스타 직 롭전 제 걸리걸리 상게 야
아난다 신디 요가데 힌두 신디 그래서 나데 가서 아스마즈데 셰바데 템보 시부지 지야메베 킬링 거레스 남바데 셰다데 테 드그 마레 테 텐자와니 마레 텐데페 셰바데 두치 켈라 바이나 셰바탄다 칸데 잉데테 티링 유라군 타이메간 차르 거레스 이니 로종 디티기티 아트마 켈레 네타 데 셰바데 두치 켈링이나 로종 디기티 셰바데 네줄데 똥바 차그레스 베데가 다다데 마가즈 남빙원에 다 셰바스 아주 단다 지지기 셈들라 디마다 제바 라 셈기 라진라 디마주야 마레스 셈기 라진라 마주 인자 디마데 루부르와 인데베 루부르에 디마다 제베 카플라 셈첸 디마데 베주진이 장네 디마다비 모모들라 상계 세시가 와도 독스지 직도 시가레스 아니 지된 감색다 지된 감 남배 지된 감 저와 차이가 닌 지된 감 더나 지된 감 제달라 상마기는 지된 감 진달에 끼그리 저베양 샘비체가 있기는 요 말이스 점린 저와 차이가 이 나마 베 생리부 당보디서 켈링 거 말데 라틴상 점린 전다 켈링이 좋아 그 여인사 준된데 켄지 먹는 수인가 거는 왜 내지 차려 나도 그래.
So Geshe is saying that the understanding here, when you have understanding or learn from the understanding of cosmic, in yoga probably yoga usually is based on Hinduism, and you get lots of Hindus philosophy or Hinduism in yoga. And in Hinduism, the understanding of soul or self or I is totally different from what is in Buddhism. In Hinduism, we find they use the word Atma, so Atma is like a soul or self or I or sometimes for consciousness. And they consider Atma as we mentioned before, something permanent, single, something truly existing, eternal. And but that kind of Atma, eternal soul, is not kind of interpreted in Buddhist understanding. If you have a soul which is permanent, which is single, which can be never changed, then there's really no point of studying or mind training. You cannot change. There won't be any transformation if you believe in that kind of concept. And in Buddhism, when we talk about mind or consciousness or maybe a soul in kind of loose translation, as we mentioned in the earlier teaching, temporarily at this moment, our mind or consciousness is sort of enwrapped with what we call defilements or afflictions. The pure nature of the mind itself is, the real nature of the mind itself is pure. So, when we use a vocabulary, sentient beings and enlightened being, one way of the narrow understanding is that when we are afflicted with the negative emotions or all these afflictions, we are called sentient beings. When you are totally free from all these temporary afflictions or defilements or disturbing emotions, then you are called enlightenment. That's one way of understanding here. In the Sublime Continuity, which is actually a text of Vajrayana, it used kind of classify three levels of sentient beings based from the perspective of impurities. If you are totally impure, sentient beings. If you are a little bit pure, you are bodhisattvas. If you are totally pure, you are enlightened. So that's one way of understanding from the levels of different purifications. And the next part, which I was saying, when we talk about universe, you were saying there's a two way of interpretation, of different levels of purification based on, again, differences of what we call definite class, which basically means from the beginning, if you are practitioners of Mahayana, then there are different levels of impurities. But if you are from the very beginning not Mahayana practitioners, if you are starting from a lesser vehicle or Theravadan, then there's another different levels of purifications. For example, if you are from the beginning, you begin from the Mahayana, not a lesser vehicle, but you are called sentient beings. And then from ground 7 to ground 10, up to ground 7, you are bodhisattvas because you haven't eliminated cognitive obscurations, delusive obscurations, and then from ground 10 and above, enlightenment. So there are different interpretations, although we mentioned the earlier, what we said. So the second part Geshe was saying was, the universe or cosmology. The universe in Buddhism is, when we say universe, of course, 100,000 millions kind of, out there that we don't know of. And so if you ask questions about, what about if we totally, kind of, destroy, or there are other, universe where, one can have a rebirth. So, you were saying that, this understanding at the beginning, of course, many scientists don't, buy in that. But later, when there are more things out there in the universe that we are not aware of, now they also, kind of believe more in that. So the point here is that we really don't, just worry about not having a place to take a rebirth. There's, billions and billions out there that we are not aware of, and that we can take again rebirth. So. Kurang ting zambling che wala masti kurang la skhala wa tanga nam juing zo panang ki kam la ora panang kam de inji thol ni universe la do di kurang jig do na lo di kurang me wa chas na nga zo sheba khwa tu gure la go sir panang kam da nam juing zo nam ju inji thol ni universe la do panang kam na da zambling de chu yo re en zambling da ma mang bo sho ro
panang kam ji ro ya da ke shigi ki ma zamin che wa tha ya la go Zambling di wang de chena kalpa chunji minji lungji zede ji na mara sum shi go on ba ze na la tati ji na di ko dile ke senjen le de ze le de kar phana le de wang de yan zamni jada ji ki ge se te tusin le de wang de ki go ba ta da se wo mon ba ze na de su wa 지단 남경 아주 인지 돌리는 갤럭시를 다 디나로 디 차선 수디어로 zamuli 차선 zamuli 치 So you were saying that in the text, Abhidharma Kosh, the treatise of knowledge, we find the destruction of sort of, galaxy or universe by fire, by water, different elements. When that happens, depending on your karmic course, you take rebirth in sort of totally entire different universe or world. But he said he's not sure about whether there will be a time where the entire universe get or galaxies get destroyed. He said he's not sure about that. They just seem to come to. Okay, yeah, last question if you.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that was an awesome question, just truly, in true sense of awesome, and just even more fantastic that Keshla has such a great answer, so thank you both. I just want to confirm the schedule, Tenem. First of all, thank you again to everyone for your patience with all the cancellations this year. We still remain at some risk of canceling, possibly even tomorrow or next weekend, although thankfully the weather isn't the primary reason anymore. So I do encourage you please to check the calendar before heading over here. We'll try to keep it, continuously up to date, right down to the hour. 3 o'clock tomorrow, we're still on so far, right, Tenem?
Yeah.
Okay. 1 o'clock, Shanti Deva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life study group tomorrow. We'll continue that for a while with Renee as long as we can, although the following 2 weeks she'll be unavailable, so watch the schedule for that. We may have a volunteer in her place. 3 o'clock tomorrow, we continue this teaching with Tenem and Geshe. Next weekend, still a little bit uncertain, but the default for every weekend from now on will be assuming we're having the 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock teaching unless we cancel for some reason, but there are some things coming up that may lead to that. So, and Geshe, we invite you to sit with us if you're available at 12:30 today. We do have meditation. We've always enjoyed it when Geshe's able to sit in, but I know he's also very busy. So, thank you.
계실라 슈나지 되어서 가서 검들. 뭐 되신 말이야? 라베 고베 신감들 펜단데와 말레 종웨네 제레세원 덴지 야소예 자베 세데 바도 덴조제 잠베 바우제드라 캠바 Kundu Sambu Denya Dechen Do Teda Kungi Enje Sonda Lobjen Gyawa Teda Tamje Rabdu Ngo Tersum Shaben Gyawa Tamje Ngowa Kangla Chodo Ngakwa Den Da Shinge We Zawa Digun Gya Sambu Chunje Rabdu Ngo Ariki. In the land and circled by economic mountains and source of power, happiness and benefits, floating in person, generous seat dancing Gyatso, remained until samsara ends, just as the Bodhisattva Manjushri attained omniscience and surrounded by Chuchu. So now do I dedicate these to train and follow in the footsteps. As all the recruits of Buddhas of past, present, and future, praise dedication to the Supreme. So now I do dedicate these souls of mine for all things to perfect good actions. Thank you.